Hey, what is up YouTube? It's Flom. I am here with another episode of Scoped Up. Today, we'll be looking at Cobble. Cobble's pretty interesting in the fact that most of the time the CTs are actually the aggressors. While you're opping on T side, a lot of the time what you find yourself doing is holding aggression instead of being the aggressor yourself. So on CT side, we'll be looking at a long A peak, a long B peak, a quick drop peak, and I'll be showing you guys how to throw a little one-way for mid that you can peek over at the start of the round. Now, for the long A peak, spawn does matter, and you're going to want the closest spawn to the long A side hall. You will also need a flash either on you or a teammate. So when running up long, guys, you don't really need to do much. There is a certain point, though, which is right here in the side hall, where you're going to want to have your flash out. And I like to come through here, and this is at full speed. I'll basically put my crosshair somewhere in this area above the opening inside this block, and I'll run forward and I'll jump throw. Now, after I jump throw, I only peek this angle. So any opper holding in this position is exposed to your flash, so they will be blind when you peek in this corner. After peeking this and not seeing anything, or if you do get the pick, obviously I would probably just fall back and take your 4v5 for the round. However, those rounds where you don't see anybody, you have a lot of things you can do. You can think about, has this team been coming long A really fast? If not, maybe you can actually extend this peek a little bit further and you can peek to the trash can. Keep in mind, if an opper or anybody really did go to this trash can, you are extremely exposed and at a disadvantage at this fight. So if you are going to peek this, all I advise you is to just be confident and usually go for this peek when you have a good understanding of when they're actually going to be there. The other thing you need to be careful about is when you peek early on into this round, after posting and not seeing anything, you don't really want to sit here because you have one of the most expensive guns in the game. You need to put it to work and you need to be either looking for a pick or establishing a lot of map control for your team. Holding here is bad not only in that sense, but also because you can get peeked on multiple levels. Sometimes people will slow walk after going close middle and peek you underneath, and if you're not ready for it, it can sometimes be a little difficult of a shot to hit. If they've been really diligent and been defaulting quite a bit towards A, maybe just fall back into a more passive position, but at least then you still know that they're not rushing long A at the start of the round. So for the long B peek, you want to have the best spawn and you need to have another person with the flash. As the operator, your role in this is extremely simple. You just take your spawn, you run through connector, and you're going to just communicate when you want your teammate to throw the flash from rock. Now, when I usually call for this flash is when I am crossing these stairs right here at sidewalk. After I pass these stairs, I tell my teammate to flash, I wait for it, and then I peek. So one other thing that you need to be concerned about and thinking about when going for this peek is not only when to tell your teammate when to flash, but if you hear the enemy team close upper B. When you're in this position, you will know if they're rushing upper B or if at least a couple are. This is when you kind of need to gauge if you're comfortable still doing this peek, if you think it's maybe just one or two and they're defaulting. If you do hear them upper B, that isn't a bad thing. That just means that you know these guys are going to be blind or they're going to be up there and you're going to take a fight. That's what you want. However, if you hear a stampede of 5 players, maybe you want to throw a Molotov, you know, just underneath here and bail out and either go to statue really quickly or fall back sidewalk. Now I'm going to show you what you can do if you are not the player opping and you're supporting your opper with a flash. Well, you run up to the rock and you see this stain on the wall, you just follow that up as your height, and then I just go up until I hit the branches of the tree. The only downsides to this flash is if any enemy player gets inside the archway. However, if you both have the best spawns, this does not happen very often, if at all. Alright guys, the third peek I'm going to be showing you guys is a drop peek. So this also requires a teammate. The spawn, obviously you're going to want to have a very good upper B spawn. If they've been dumping a lot of utility, nades, molotovs at the start of the round, it's not worth it. I wouldn't really go for this. However, if teams aren't pressuring it a lot or they kind of go into it mid-round, what you can do is have your teammate boost you, and when those teams start slowing down and they're not using a lot of utility for drop, what you can do is go for that peek early and make it 5v4 for your team. The other thing with this peek is there is actually a slight glitch to it with your animation, which makes it very beneficial for you as the opper, because when you jump on your teammate's head, your head will actually dip below the headshot angle. The terrorist will not be able to see you, even though on your screen you will still see him. It'll give you a slight advantage, and if you do get caught off guard, it can sometimes save you, making this peek even that much more dangerous. Now for this one-way top mid, spawn doesn't really matter too much. Obviously, the better you have, or the further front spawn you have, the better. You're gonna need a smoke, and that's really it. You're gonna head down mid at the start of the round, and you wanna get along the mid wall here. Crouch is what I do, and then I just aim slightly above the bottom of the door, and I come up and I like to turn. This is for everybody usually dumps one flash middle. It doesn't have to be pretty, they do it anyway. It's hard to see them and turn appropriately because you threw the smoke down obviously, and they're going through the smoke. So what I'll do is after I hear their flash mid, I'll then turn and then peek for anybody crossing towards long A at the start of the round. Now after you've peeked that angle, you can further peek as long as you're comfortable doing it. However, I wouldn't sit playing mid too much longer. Most of the time, if somebody's up close mid, you'll hear a footstep, or they'll generally spam the doors. They'll be pretty active. If you don't hear anything and you don't see anybody in top middle, it's pretty safe to say that they might not be applying a lot of pressure to A, and you can tell your team, and hopefully your team can react accordingly. So looking at T side, the first thing we'll be showing you is a molly long peek, a very aggressive drop peek you can do, and how to manage and hold upper B when the CTs aggress into you. This is fantastic to deal with CT operators that are playing a very common position and where they're opping into side hall when you first enter it as a terrorist. You're really going to want to be wary of where the other operator can be, so I advise you playing far back and holding that angle that I was showing you guys. The further back you hold, the harder it is for that flash to actually be effective against you. If you're really worried about it, you can come all the way to the right, in which if the operator slow peeks into you, just like we discussed on CT side, you'll have a massive advantage if he decides to take this fight. So after you've established that they're not pushing side hall or mid guys, what you're going to want to do is throw a Molotov, and you want it to bounce off the wall, and so that the center of the Molotov is landing close on this corner. So what I mean by the center is, like, essentially if you were throwing a grenade, where would the grenade explode? So the same principle, just you're throwing that in mind with the Molotov. So you're wanting it to explode on the right. And what this does is it puts the center of the Molotov flame, which obscures vision the most, in front of you, and allows you to peek behind it, giving you the advantage against the CT operator and opening up the round for your team. Now, this relies a lot on your teammates on getting drop control at the start of the round, and quite frankly, if they're not getting it, well, then you're never going to really use this peek. After your teammates have mollied or smoked off drop or done whatever you guys are doing in the round, don't be afraid to take your op down into drop. You have a lot of clear lines that you can take in a lot of fights, and people don't expect an op to be down here. The other thing is as long as your teammates have cleared E-box, you actually have a really good fight to fight statue. There's a lot of strong angles in drop that I don't think people take advantage enough of. This is very much what you want to do in the middle of a round, not at the start. You don't want to go flying down drop with an op, but it'll allow you to really maybe open up the map quite a bit for your team. You know, you get the pick on the upper B guy, and your teammates upper B can then flood out. It really does apply a lot of pressure to the CTs, and I don't think it's utilized enough. So on Cobble, CTs constantly will test upper B and try to get upper B control. And if your team is holding like a passive default and you brought the op towards B, it's your job to make sure that while it's not smoked, that you have control of upper B plat and you're denying the CT's information. So some things that you can do as an operator to apply pressure upper B and to hold upper B. A lot of people will hold this angle, and as we discussed earlier with the rock flash, that is one thing you need to be careful of. However, if they don't have a good rock flash, what you will find is you can hold this angle pretty safely, and if you do get blind, just take your shot and fall back right away. Worst case scenario, you're not dead. He might be upper B, but you didn't die and you took a shot, and you know that they're aggressing upper B and they're applying pressure. The other position that you can hold upper B is on top of this wooden ledge. Now this wooden ledge is extremely powerful because sometimes if a team makes a mistake and they jump over the smoke or whatever, you know, you can see them. You're probably not going to get a kill, but you can at least get some information on maybe where they are. The other reason why this position is extremely strong is teams will sometimes smoke upper B on the stairs here, and they'll throw a Molotov behind you to clear out this corner. And what you can do is you can hold this position up front and contest it, and you can possibly get a kill, especially if it's just one guy aggressing. You can fall back on top of this box and play a deeper angle if they're trying to push. And this is also an extremely hard position to flash once you start getting more and more passive. And after the molly fades, you can then even drop down if you want, and your teammates can push through the smoke. It just denies the CTs from ever getting any sort of information and to fully clear out upper B, which means they always have to respect your upper B and what your team is trying to do. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up this episode of Scoped Up. As always, if you enjoyed this content, guys, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Take it easy, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.